Part 1. The Return of the Tyrant. In the year 2078, the biotech corporation Gentech announced a groundbreaking achievement. They had successfully resurrected the Tyrannosaurus Rex using advanced genetic engineering. The world erupted in excitement and fear. Governments were alarmed, but Gentech assured them that they had full control over the creature. The first revived T-Rex was named T-Rex Prime. It was kept in a high-security facility, though monitored by hundreds of scientists and armed personnel. At first, everything went according to plan. T-Rex Prime was a magnificent yet contained beast, unable to hunt and entirely dependent on the food provided by humans. But then, scientists made a terrifying discovery. T-Rex Prime was evolving. The reconstructed dinosaur DNA was not as perfect as humans had assumed. Some genetic sequences had self-reorganized, making T-Rex Prime far more intelligent than expected. It began watching the researchers, memorizing security gate patterns, and reacting faster to environmental changes. One stormy night, T-Rex Prime escaped. With unmatched strength and growing intelligence, it charged into the human world, marking the beginning of an unimaginable nightmare. The first massacre. T-Rex Prime's escape sent shockwaves through the world. Gentech desperately tried to cover up the incident, but within hours, news leaked. A real, living Tyrannosaurus Rex was loose. Governments scrambled for a response, but bureaucracy moved too slowly. By the time the military was deployed, it was already too late. The beast reached Blackwood, a quiet town with barely 5,000 residents. The first sign of disaster was a deep, earth-trembling roar that shattered windows and set off car alarms. Rain poured heavily, drowning out the distant screams, until they got closer. A police car sped down the street, sirens blaring. Officers Reynolds and Carter had no idea what they were dealing with. They saw only a massive silhouette through the sheets of rain, something that shouldn't exist. "Jesus Christ," Carter muttered, gripping his pistol. Then T-Rex Prime moved. With terrifying speed, it closed the distance in mere seconds. Crash! Its colossal foot crushed a pickup truck as it lunged forward. The officers fired wildly, but the bullets barely scratched its thick, armored hide. Before they could react, the monster's jaws snapped shut around their vehicle. Metal groaned, glass shattered, and within seconds, the car, along with the officers, was nothing more than twisted debris beneath its powerful bite. Screams erupted across Blackwood as people tried to flee, but there was no escape. T-Rex Prime was not just hunting. It was learning. It began knocking over buildings, smashing streetlights, and cutting off escape routes. It wasn't killing for survival anymore. It was enjoying the chaos. By dawn, Blackwood was a graveyard. Blood and debris painted the streets. The few survivors, hiding in basements and attics, could only pray the beast would leave. But T-Rex Prime had just begun. Somewhere in the forests outside town, it stood still, sniffing the air. It had tasted human flesh, and deep inside its mutated, resurrected mind, something changed. This was no longer about escaping. This was about dominating. Part 3. The Hunt Begins. By the time military helicopters arrived in Blackwood, the town was already silent. No screams, no gunfire, just the crackling of burning buildings and the distant sound of car alarms still echoing through the empty streets. Colonel David Riker stood at the open door of a hovering Black Hawk, staring down at the ruins of what had been a peaceful town just hours ago. Bodies lay scattered, many torn apart as if a hurricane of teeth and claws had passed through. "Jesus Christ," whispered one of the soldiers. "Stay sharp," Riker ordered. "We're not dealing with a normal animal." The convoy of choppers circled overhead, scanning for any sign of movement. Infrared cameras picked up nothing. T-Rex Prime was gone, but it hadn't fled. It was watching. Deep in the forest outside Blackwood, hidden among the trees, T-Rex Prime stood perfectly still. It had learned. The chaos of the town had been easy prey, but these new arrivals? They were different. They came in organized formations, with weapons and machines. Predators. And T-Rex Prime was a predator too. It crouched low, muscles tensing, waiting for the perfect moment. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., the White House Situation Room was in chaos. The President of the United States stared at the footage from Blackwood, his face pale. Across the table, a Gentech executive struggled to explain. We didn't anticipate this level of cognitive function," stammered Dr. Evelyn Cross, the lead geneticist behind T-Rex Prime. The Secretary of Defense slammed his fist on the table. Cognitive function. That thing just wiped out an entire town. We need to neutralize it before it reaches another population center, a general barked. This is no longer a science experiment. This is war. The president turned to Dr. Cross. Tell me the truth, doctor. Can we kill it? She hesitated. We designed T-Rex Prime to be better than its prehistoric ancestors. Stronger, smarter, more adaptable. She took a shaky breath. We may have made it too perfect. Silence fell over the room. Then a voice crackled over the radio. Colonel Riker's voice. Sir, we've got movement in the tree line. I think it's watching us. Before anyone could respond, the radio was drowned out by a deafening roar. T-Rex Prime had chosen its next prey, and this time it was hunting the hunters. Part 4. The Slaughter of the Hunters. Colonel Riker barely had time to react. The trees exploded outward as a 7-ton mass of muscle, scales, and hunger lunged from the shadows. Soldiers shouted, weapons fired, but it was already too late. T-Rex Prime was faster. The nearest Humvee was crushed like a soda can beneath its foot. A soldier tried to run, but the beast's tail swung like a wrecking ball, hurling him into the side of a transport truck with a sickening crunch. Open fire! Riker bellowed. A barrage of bullets and missiles lit up the night, tearing through trees and dirt. But T-Rex Prime was learning. It had watched humans fight, seen how they attacked. It zigzagged between gunfire, dodging like no animal ever should. Then it vanished into the darkness. The jungle fell eerily silent. The only sound was the heavy breathing of terrified soldiers. Where the hell did it go? Riker scanned the treetops. His instincts screamed, move! Too late. The beast struck from above. T-Rex Prime had climbed a ridge, launching itself downward like an avalanche of death. Its jaws clamped around a soldier, lifting him into the air as he screamed, before snapping him in half with one brutal bite. Panic erupted. Men ran, screamed, fired blindly. Some tried to retreat to the choppers, but the second they turned their backs, T-Rex Prime was there. One pilot made it into his Black Hawk, frantically starting the engine. The rotors spun up, just as a massive claw ripped the tail clean off. The helicopter lurched, spun wildly, and exploded in a fireball, sending burning debris raining down on the survivors. Riker knew they were finished. Fall back! Fall back! Chomp! The colonel's last words were drowned out by the sickening crunch of bones. The world watches in horror. Live feeds from military drones broadcast the massacre in real time. The world watched in paralyzed terror as elite soldiers, armed to the teeth, were slaughtered like insects. The Pentagon scrambled for answers. We need airstrikes, one general roared. We don't know if that'll work, Dr. Cross said. We made its bones denser than steel. It might survive. The president turned to the screen, watching the carnage unfold. His voice was grave. Then we drop a pot nuclear bomb. The room fell silent. Then, suddenly, movement on the drone feed. T-Rex Prime stood over the corpses of its latest victims, staring directly into the camera. It knew it was being watched. Then, with terrifying purpose, it turned its massive head toward the nearest city and began to walk. Part 5, Extinction Begins. T-Rex Prime wasn't running anymore. It was marching. The military had failed. Their best soldiers were nothing more than shredded corpses in the jungle. The world had just witnessed the impossible, a creature from the past, evolved beyond human understanding, annihilating an elite strike force like they were nothing. And now it was heading straight for the city. The last defense. The government had one last option, nukes. But there was a problem. T-Rex Prime was heading toward New Denver, a metropolis of 12 million people. If they dropped a nuclear bomb, millions would die. The president hesitated. Could they really justify wiping out a whole city to kill one creature? The answer came too late. The attack on New Denver. At 3:42 a.m., seismic monitors picked up massive tremors. At 3:47 a.m., security cameras on the city outskirts captured a colossal shape emerging from the darkness. At 3:51 a.m., the first building collapsed. T-Rex Prime crashed into the city like a living natural disaster. Skyscrapers shattered as it smashed through them, glass and steel raining down like deadly confetti. It wasn't just hunting. It was erasing. People screamed. Thousands ran for their lives, but there was nowhere to hide. The beast was too fast, too big, too intelligent. Cars became its stepping stones. It didn't just eat people, it crushed them, ripped them apart, tore through anything that moved. The military fired everything they had: tanks, rockets, drones. Nothing worked. T Rex Prime dodged missiles, leaped over barricades, and used its sheer power to tear through anything that stood in its way. At 4:15 a.m., the National Guard was gone. At 4:30 a.m., New Denver ceased to exist. The beginning of the end. Across the world, panic spread, governments collapsed, cities evacuated in terror. But it was too late, because New Denver wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. From the burning ruins, T Rex Prime roared, and somewhere deep inside its mutated mind, it knew. This world was no longer ruled by humans. It belonged to the dinosaurs once more. Part 6. The Fall of Humanity. The destruction of New Denver marked the turning point. The world had tried to contain T Rex Prime. It had tried to fight. It had even considered nuking its own cities. None of it mattered, because T Rex Prime wasn't alone anymore. The second nightmare. When military drones surveyed the wreckage of New Denver, they expected to find one monster. They found dozens. Some were smaller, moving in packs through the ruins like wolves. Others were massive, almost as large as Prime itself. All of them had the same unnatural intelligence. The truth was horrifying. T Rex Prime had found a way to reproduce. Its DNA had been unstable from the start, a result of countless genetic modifications. Now it was evolving at an accelerated rate, adapting faster than anything in Earth's history. It wasn't just one species anymore. It was an entirely new apex predator, and it was spreading. The collapse. Day 1. New Denver is lost. Governments scramble to respond. Day 5. Reports of new creatures appearing in other parts of the world. Day 9. London falls. The Eiffel Tower collapses. Beijing is burning. Day 15. The military surrenders. The human death toll is over 2 billion. Day 30. The world belongs to the dinosaurs. Cities became hunting grounds. Roads became bone-filled graveyards. Survivors hid in underground bunkers, whispering in fear as they heard thunderous footsteps above. T Rex Prime had achieved what no species before it ever had. It had not just returned, it had reclaimed the Earth. The final hope. But all was not lost. Deep in a secret facility, Dr. Evelyn Cross and a handful of surviving scientists worked on one last desperate plan. "We can't kill them," she whispered, staring at a DNA sample glowing under the microscope. "But maybe we can control them." The last battle was coming, and humanity had one final move left to play. Part 7. The Last Stand. The world was dying. Once great cities lay in ruins, their streets filled with the bones of the fallen. The few surviving humans hid beneath the earth, living in fear of the titanic predators that now ruled the surface. T Rex Prime and its offspring had erased civilization in just a matter of weeks. But in one final hidden stronghold, humanity's last hope was being prepared. Project Dominion. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Evelyn Cross and her team had spent their final days working on an unthinkable solution. They had failed to kill the monsters. They had failed to contain them. But now, they had a new plan. Using the same genetic technology that created T Rex Prime, they had engineered something even more terrifying. A creature designed not to hunt humans, but to hunt the hunters. The battle for Earth. At dawn, the survivors released it. The ground trembled as the gates of the laboratory opened. A shadow stepped forward, larger than anything before it, the world's final predator. T Rex Prime stood atop the ruins of Washington, D.C., roaring in triumph. The Earth belonged to it now. It had no challengers, until it heard something. A new roar, deeper, louder, more ancient. For the first time in its life, T Rex Prime felt fear. And as the two titans charged at each other, shaking the Earth with their steps, humanity watched from the shadows. Their fate would be decided in this final battle.